As a former overachiever and perfectionist, I am in what maybe past me would be considered my suck era. I suck at everything that I am working on right now, and I absolutely love it. And let's talk about it. I'm convinced that the best thing that could happen to any overachiever or perfectionist is to be in a situation where they just end up failing a lot. In order to understand the importance of how February and March have turned out for me, we need to rewind the clock a bit back to 2020. Now, prior to 2020, I am a former overachiever and perfectionist, and clearly that wasn't working well in life for me. I was also really part of the rat race, and 2020 was the time that I physically got myself out of the rat race. That being said, while you can physically get yourself out of the rat race, mentally is a different challenge, and the last couple of 3 to 4 years has been me unlearning and relearning healthier ways of being. And some of that unlearning and relearning process mainly came from the idea of like, if you base your identity on achievement and perfectionism, the side effects of this is often that you take less risks because you're afraid that if you try something new and you are not good at it right from the beginning, you immediately drop it. You do not want to work hard on it. You immediately think, it's not for me, I'm a failure, that's it. And you avoid it. And that's not true. That just inhibits you and your lifelong learning capabilities and your own self-esteem and your self-confidence, and you tend to stay in a safe zone of achievement of what you're good at instead of exploring different avenues and taking on a different mentality to it. The second thing about perfectionism is that you will oftentimes, more than not, end up stopping yourself from working on something because, believe it or not, you're gonna suck a lot at everything you do in the beginning. If you base your identity off achievement, status, and perfectionism, you will find that when those things don't go well in your life, your whole identity gets shaken up, you start to lose self-esteem, self-confidence, and in the last years or so, that has been me unlearning those things and relearning better things to actually be focusing on, which is my ability to learn, my ability to problem solve, my ability to pick myself back up, and my ability to persevere and be patient with whatever it is I'm working on. Because you'll find that if you are so achievement focused, if you are working on something and you find out you're not doing well on it, those people tend to quit earlier. Similarly, if you're a perfectionist, you may feel like you need to do all the right things before you ever start the right thing. So you end up doing planning, and never actually doing the action that you want to take, because you will find that your first pieces of work that you put out are not perfect at all. They are absolutely far from perfect. That being said, the good side to overachievement and perfectionism is that when you have perfectionism, that means you do have an image of what you would want, and that's something you can work towards. It just takes longer time. The second thing being that if you are an overachiever, that means you are an ambitious person, and that's great. But we need to reshape and change the foundation of how you measure your self-worth as a person, and your self-esteem and your self-confidence as a living, breathing person living day to day. I really want to be a lifelong learner. I enjoy learning, and I'm a curious person. And so from that, I've approached everything more from a learner's perspective. Second thing being nurture my relationships. Am I a decently good friend? I don't want to say I'm the best friend. You see, that's the perfectionism talking. I am a decently good friend. Whenever you relearn like a new way of thinking or believing or acting upon the world, it is at first a very conscious decision and you never get it right. A couple times it's kind of like your old thoughts and your new thoughts are really merging together during that transition. But literally, sometimes I'll just react to something nowadays where something goes wrong. And in the past, I used to catastrophize so much, like, oh my God, I messed up on this. That means I'm a terrible person. But no, nowadays I'm just like pretty curious, like, oh, this went wrong. I wonder why. Oh, how can I fix it? And then like I just brush it off and I just move on. And I'm like, whoa, that is so trippy. I feel like a different person. I mean, I probably am a different person. That's how life works. And so about February and March, pretty much there were main quests, there were side quests, and let's talk about it. So in February, I was able to do a PowerPoint night. Now, if you know me, usually if I want something, I don't usually like to wait for it to happen if it doesn't look like it's gonna happen, so I just want to try and make it happen. I really liked this idea on the internet of like people coming, your friends coming together, making a PowerPoint night, so I'm like, I'm gonna make a PowerPoint night.
Oh,
Okay.
this is so cute.
Wow. Present in full.
Did I see Crystal is the first one to die?
There's a reason. I'll explain. I'll give the thought process, okay? I'll give the thought process. So my presentation is on how everyone would die in a zombie apocalypse.
Next is I learned how to drive a manual transmission car, aka like the stick shift car, which is not very popular. It's quite rare in the US, but one of my friends had one and he was like, yo, you want to learn? And I was just like, heck yeah. So that was like something I just randomly said yes to, even though I did not expect or even seek it out. Always say yes to cool things, guys. It will take you to the coolest places ever. The other thing is one of my friends from high school reached out to me, and he's a teacher at one of the elementary schools, and he was like, hey, do you want to volunteer teaching at Read Across America at my elementary school? And I was all like, heck yeah, I'm gonna read to a bunch of little kids. I always wanted to incorporate more community service into my life. I just didn't know how and in what avenues. I read from this one book, I think like The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I haven't read it all yet. I only read pieces of it, but I liked the concept that they put about how there's levels of like codependency, independent, and then interdependent. And I think for a lot of us, once you reach from codependent to independent and you get out of like survival mode, where we can find fulfillment in life is service to other people, and that's where like interdependent comes from. I mean, it doesn't have to be like community service either. It can literally be thinking of more ideas of how you can help out your family and friends. Because I think there was like this quote from somewhere where this guy was like, everyone wants to be a hero, but no one wants to help mom with the dishes. And when I first heard that, I was like, you're right. So if you ever want to be a change in the world, just focus first on trying to be a change in your sphere of influence around you. And that has been going really well. So I'm trying to reach that level of interdependence. I think that only works best if you are not in a survival state of being. So if you're really stressed out about a bunch of other stuff going on in life, then it's understandable, you know. But once you're in a comfortable place in life, I think that's the next thing that you can work on, which I got a lot of fulfillment out of and I'm continue to do going forward. Next up is in February, I decided that I needed to get out of my comfort zone a little, and I started to film at the park. Guys, look at the cute little geese. Just came back home from filming outside in public at the park for the first time, and I'm kind of running on a high to have been able to overcome a small fear. It's not like I've never filmed outside before. I've either filmed things or my friends have filmed me, and like where my friends and I have filmed each other, but I've never gone outside by myself, set up a tripod, and talked to a camera by myself in public before. That I felt like was a next level of bravery I didn't know I could do. There was like people walking around, and at first I would like look down because I was just like, oh my god. And like I would just like stop talking. Throughout that whole time, I was like slowly easing into it and just being like, okay, you know what? Like, what if I just say hi to people? So whenever they walk by, if they looked at me, I just like smiled or waved or said hi, and they would like smile back, or they'd even come up to me and just have conversation like, oh, what are you up to? But you know, in like a friendly way, not like in a judgy way. And I would tell them like, oh yeah, I'm just making a video, and they'd be like, oh, that's so cool. Da, 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 da. That was very sweet. It like reminds you like, wow, people are nice. And I feel like if we look down and we already guess how people are going to act or react to us, or guess what they're thinking, and if we think of it in a bad way, then you'll never have that chance to have that connection, I think is the key thing. So yeah, I am definitely on a high on that. Next up is, let's see, co-working with friends. I'm still continuing doing that. Our co-working group has really continued to expand, and so we meet up often and we work together. We work side by side, and I didn't realize that it was so important to have this kind of synergy. Even if we were working on our own separate things, if something came along where we could help the other person, we would like offer it up and find ways, and we would also like celebrate our wins. Each of my friends, we're all working on different things, but it's the fact that we're all very like encouraging of each other and sharing resources with one another, where I feel like, oh my god, like when I'm having a rough time or when I'm trying to figure my own thing, I don't feel alone while I'm trying to figure out all this stuff. And when you're surrounded by very optimistic people and we're focusing more on the actions we need to take, talking about strategy or next step, you don't feel alone in what you're trying to achieve, and you feel like you have a team of people there to support you as you try to grow. And it finally made me understand this quote that they say, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. And I think before, there was an era of my life where I was around people who tolerated me, I tolerated them, and you know, we hang out, we're good people, but we had a good time, but it's not the same feeling as someone really is invested in your success and you're invested in other people's success. I often like to tell people like, be the change you want to see, and that starts with you. So it's been cool, because in the past couple of years I've been trying to change that, right? Like I want to celebrate other people's success more. I want to encourage more of my friends' success more. and those who are willing to reciprocate, it kind of like attracts the same, like similar type of people, right? And in between working and building this momentum throughout the last couple of weeks, there was a lot of like side quests I did as well. I feel like those side quests kind of add like a sprinkle of novelty to your day-to-day life, which makes time feel like it's moving fast and slow at the same time. Slow because you experience a novel experience, but fast because next thing you know, 3 weeks has passed and you're just like, what the heck has happened? But as all of this was building, I was literally gonna call March Momentum March. Then last Friday, I got some hard-hitting news that someone I know passed away. And I was just like, oh, shoot. And the tone for the week kind of changed a bit, but that's to be expected, right? A lot of life is unexpected. And I decided to take like a week off from making videos. It feels very weird to be filming a video. Like everything's okay, but everything's not quite okay. It's a weird feeling. And I'm just leaning into that for now. It's very interesting from this experience though, because I did have quite a number of friends talking about how they're not really sure how to support a person who is grieving or how to go through a grieving process themselves. So I was thinking maybe in another video, I might make like a quick video just going over some ideas of like how you can support a person that's grieving. Because I do feel like, for better or for worse, I've had quite a number of experience with grieving over people who've passed away through multiple types of circumstances. You know, some people died young, died old, died fast, died slow, died cancer, yeah, all that shebang. And that's kind of why I feel like that's probably influenced the values I often like to share with you guys about memento mori and just remembering that like tomorrow is not guaranteed. To grow old is a privilege, and that everything sort of matters and doesn't matter at the same time. And I really want people to spend their time in their life very meaningfully, very intentionally, at least in a way that makes you feel fulfilled and very satisfied with the life you've chosen to live day in and day out for whatever time you're given. TLDR, just living life with no regrets, but taking that time to reflect on that, I think, is the most important. So important to me. Please, guys, don't assume, and I'm not, I really hate hustle culture. I don't like people who are pressured, like, you gotta make the most of every minute of your life. No, that's not the point. It's not the point. You don't need to make the most of your life, because that's not how we work, okay? That sounds like some kind of, I was gonna say some kind of capitalistic propaganda that you need to be productive and producing everything. You are a human being. You work and you chill. You do things and you enjoy life at the same time. Something I also think about, and I talk a lot with my friends, is how do you measure success in your life? Because for everyone that's different. And I think for most people, you tend to default to what society tells you are the metrics of success, and that would define you to be successful. But if you take a moment to just sit down one evening or one afternoon and really think about what you actually care about most, what you want to get out of this life you're given, you'll find that your metrics for success, or what is deemed a successful life, is quite different from the conventional version. Or it might be similar, I don't know. But once you realize that yours can be different from someone else's, you stop judging people based off of your own metrics. You realize like, hey, that person's probably running on different success metrics than me. Are they happy? Cool. I'm really happy for them. That's it, honestly. Yeah. Things are changing. Life is always changing. Every week is kind of slightly different, but I'm very excited. I feel like momentum is growing. Something is changing. I wish I knew. There's like those movie quotes saying like, there's change happening in the wind or something. But okay, talk to you guys soon. See you. Okay, that's all. Subscribe if you haven't already, and talk to you guys soon. Okay, bye.